Lo-Fi Horror Guys Growing On You Live Season 14 is sponsored by Toxic Coffin. Toxic Coffin is two horror-loving dudes, Lance and Steven. They make horror and Halloween goods to explode your brain. Each shirt is curated with its own experience to make you stoked on your favorite movie or time of year. Follow Toxic Coffin at toxic_coffin on social medias or at their shop at toxiccoffin.com. Once again, at toxic_coffin or at their shop at toxiccoffin.com.
All right, Paul, how's it going, man?
Good, man. How's it going?
It is going absolutely great. First and foremost, man, thank you so much for your time today. This is so awesome.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem at all.
Look, so let me say, as far as, this season, this month in particular is extra special for me because I myself am a drummer, and I can certainly say, you being one of my inspirations for years and years. So this is absolutely cool, and I appreciate the time and the opportunity, man. So we're gonna have some fun here with the conversation.
Yeah, man. Awesome, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate the kind words as well.
Okay, awesome. All right, so here on Growing On You Live, basically, we're going to have one introduction question. Then the remainder of the interview is about, you and your craft, your career in music. And then I have one finale that I wrote just for this episode, man. Nice. So if you're all good and comfy, we're going to get this bad boy rolling.
Let's do it.
All right, let me ask you, my wife and I do some traveling. We're coming through Florida. What's a local eatery, let's say even pre or post-pandemic, that you would recommend that's a favorite to you? Maybe even something local.
Well, it's kind of funny you ask that. There's actually a favorite Mexican restaurant that I go to that I've been going to for years.
Okay.
It's Guadalajara in Mexico. Mexican's not that big in Florida. It's obviously Cuban and stuff like that. But
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure there may be better Mexican throughout the world or out the country, kind of a thing. But there's just this place that we go to, and my daughter started out maybe about 20, 30 years ago. There was only like one or two or one location, and it's kind of like a little bit of a local chain, sort of say.
So what did you say the name of it was?
Vallarta's, Vallarta's.
Vallarta's.
Yeah, Vallarta's. I mean, they got a good vegetarian menu, being that I'm vegetarian, of course. So
right.
I love it. And there's actually another place, now that we're talking restaurants real quick, there's a place that we've been going to, a Vietnamese place, and it is just utterly amazing. So I've been doing that a lot in the last couple of months, actually, called Tin An Tofu and Kitchen in Tampa, and that is another amazing restaurant. So.
Okay, nice. Yeah, a little plethora, a little kind of smorgasbord, if you will, of choices. I like it.
Yeah, for sure.
So digging into you musically, as far as scaling it back a little, and when growing up, what were some songs, bands, or albums that resonated with you? Maybe even possibly before you were a music fan, if you will.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to start somewhere, obviously, right? And I guess it was probably around, maybe I was maybe 9 years old, something like that. I mean, digging through my parents, my father's, they had a big 45 collection, obviously, back then. Those were huge, in the 50s, 60s, right? And he had some albums as well. And that's kind of how I started just listening to a little bit of music on my own, throwing stuff on the turntable like that. And, it's funny. I guess why I probably gravitated more towards the heavy stuff in general. I look back, and what really resonated with me was the Kinks. Going through all that, and when you heard "You Really Got Me" or "All Day and All of the Night" for the first time, I mean, it was just like that guitar sound. That kind of gritty, like, what is that? This sound that's a little different than what's going on, with the rest of the music at that point.
Yeah.
So I always remember just liking that, like, right off the bat, like that just kind of like it got to me, and then, that it was basically the start of metal in a sense, those kind of tones and those, songs and bands like that, obviously, that I had no idea at that time. But But that was a big one in particular. And then really the first band that I actually got into, he was big into the Beach Boys, and I remember putting on the Beach Boys record, and just liking the songs, I guess. I mean, whether it was whatever, they weren't heavy, obviously, and it's not metal, it's not hard rock even, really.
Yeah, something catchy.
Just catchy, good songs, So so I mean, I really just started liking music around that time.
Okay.
And then led to liking your own stuff, which then that's where Kiss came into play.
I was asking about that.
Anybody growing up at that time, if you're in the 70s or late 70s like I was, a 10-year-old, and I mean, I worshipped Kiss. So they were my first love and my first really true band that I just was, just in awe of, So that was amazing. What an amazing time, But Kiss was it.
Who was your favorite member? Who was the cat that you recreated the face paint maybe for Halloween?
Yeah, I know, right? I always really loved Gene Simmons. He was definitely my favorite. I mean, all four of them were great, and great in their own way, of course. But Gene Simmons, just something about him. I mean, he just how intense he was, I guess, and the way he looked and the way he sounded and just the things he did, of course. I mean, that was insanity and still is. But yeah, I was definitely drawn by Gene more so than the other three.
Yeah, sure. So as far like your Cannibal Corpse's most recent record, we got Violence Unimagined, features yet another piece by the one and only Vince Locke. I wanted to ask you, as far as cover art wise, when scanning through a music shop yourself, may it be a CD shop or a record shop, what was an album, or what is the earlier memory of seeing something, just seeing the cover art and choosing that, choosing something just solely off of that, maybe not even aware of the band?
Yeah, so I mean, we did a lot of that, and it's so crazy to think because it's been so damn long ago now, back in the day. Gosh, I'm trying to pull memories of. I know we did it a lot. We went to the record stores. There was a couple in Buffalo that we would go to as teenagers, and we would never hear of these bands. And it's just funny because I can't offhand think of like one in particular. For some reason, my memory wants to serve me as going into the record store, and I believe we heard Creator for the first time. I think Endless Pain was you'd go in and they'd usually play, an album or something, and you walk in, you're like, who is this, And then you saw the record, the cover, of course, of Endless Pain. And you were just like, wow, this is in crazy stuff. And you might have only heard literally like 2 seconds of this music, but it was just enough to draw you in and go, man, this is some cool stuff. I got to get this, So I do have that recollection with Creator. But I know there's other bands that we walked into the store and actually did discover because of the record covers, and I just it's so long ago, man. I can't recall anything in particular.
And I mean, it is funny, it is fun, in the sense of even having, guys like Vince or some of the other artists that you've had for some of your cover art. It's one of those things where even if you don't want to, if you're walking by, people just walking around a record shop are like, what the hell is this?
Oh yeah.
So always something fun, and always, I think something expected with Cannibal Corpse too, is you're looking for what the cover art is going to be. And certainly with Violence Unimagined, I was like, holy shit, they brought it back on this one.
Yeah, we definitely did. We wanted to kind of go more old school, of course, with a title, with Violence Unimagined. I mean, you have to have something pretty brutal, but that gets back to the point of like what I was talking about, right? With covers. I mean, that's what we loved as fans of music, back in that day. We loved having the music match, with the artwork and the subject matter and all that kind of thing, to be it like a complete package in that way. And as fans of music, that's what we wanted to see. That's why when we had a chance finally to be Cannibal Corpse, of course, and put out our first CD or album, we wanted something to stand out in that way. We wanted a kid or a fan to go into a record store and look at this and go and just be blown away by it. You know, look at the name of the band, look at the artwork, read the titles. I got to have this, you know. So that's kind of what made us want to do it that way. You know, we were big fans of the heavy stuff like that, and it was such a vital importance of the visuals as well. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's always something too appreciated by fans when you have an album like, you know, you finally get to listen to your guys' most recent record. And I mean, it completely, you know, just like blows you away. But then also having that cover art too, it's like a perfect package, you know. It's like, okay, this is, every once in a while you have an awesome album and then you have the cover art and it's like, if they could have just had something sweet on the cover, this would have been a perfect album. But this certainly did that.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I think this one is the complete package. I mean, we always obviously concentrate on music first and foremost, you know.
Right.
And you know, you look at all our covers, we have some great ones, and you know, and then we have some that, you know, some that are, I mean, they're all great, but some that aren't as intense as others, you know. And you know, I guess we, like I said, we always looked at the music first. As long as we got some great songs, I mean, it should sell itself in that way, you know.
Totally.
You don't need a cover, but at the same time, you know, we're Cannibal Corpse, and you know, I think for Violence Unimagined, I mean, it was a huge step, you know, kind of going a little more the old school route like that, and having something very brutal, you know, to match what we've been doing. And I think the fans, of course, really appreciate that. So it's been a big plus all around for sure.
Yeah. Now, as far as your drumming, as far as your drum playing, you know, so you had, you know, your uncle played in a band, and later, you know, you played, I believe it was your cousin's drum kit for the first time playing on something. Tell us about getting your first drum kit and where that came from.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I'm actually a latecomer to the, you know, to the music game in a sense of playing drums. You know, a lot of kids are starting when they're really young, and you know, I was never that guy. You know, I was never that kid. I mean, I was, you know, I didn't get my first drum set until I was 16 years old, and you know, I didn't start playing until I got my first drum kit. You know, other than exactly messing around a little bit here and there on my cousin's kit, but you know, nothing of anything substantial. So. Yeah, you know, I'll never forget the kit. I wish I still had it to this day. Unfortunately, I don't. But it was a Kent drum set. I know they were made in Buffalo or Western New York. I'm not sure if it was actually Buffalo or I'm pretty sure it is a company that was out of there. If not, it was somewhere in Western New York. But it was an old, you know, I think it was from the 60s, you know, and then of course I'm buying this in 85. So it's old, but it's not that old probably at the time. I remember going with my mother. We went in her Pinto. I don't know how I got a double bass kit in with hardware and the drums and everything. We crammed it into her Pinto, and I remember we bought it for $200, and you know, brought it home, set it up in the basement, and there was my first kit. So you know, like I said, it wasn't the greatest kit, but hey, it was a double bass, and that was important. I needed a double bass kit, you know. That's a big importance, I think, from the old school. Nowadays, you know, a lot of the drummers, you know, they're of course using a double pedal, but maybe not, you know, the actual two kick drums, you know, and that was obviously so important for me to have. So to find this Kent kit, you know, at that price with the double bass was a pretty cool thing. So yeah, unfortunately, like I said, I don't have that. I sold that years ago, and I look back and go, man, I wish I still had that, just because it was actually my first drum kit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What you know, when you get that bad boy home, what were some of the first songs kind of running through your head that you wanted to learn to play, or, you know, play along with?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I got the kit, it was almost kind of like, you know, that the way I started playing drums, and the way actually like Cannibal was formed, and the way, you know, my friends and, you know, pre-Cannibal playing in the band Tyrant Sin that I was in, it was kind of like I got my drum set, and I wasn't like one to just sit and go, okay, I'm going to go and just practice for hours and hours by myself. That wasn't the mentality. The mentality is, let's get a drum set and start playing songs, though we don't know what we're doing, you know. That was myself and Barnes and Rich Ziegler and Bob Rousset. You know, we started playing together our first real band kind of a thing. But we're all like kind of learning together here. So it was kind of like we couldn't jump into the deep end and play the stuff we really wanted to play, like, you know, Slayer, Metallica, and things like that. I mean, so we had to kind of go, well, what can we play? What's easy enough for us to play? So I think there's two songs that I remember that I really started playing. that were pretty simple in a way was Celtic Frost, Dethroned Emperor, and Pounding
Oh
Metal
yeah.
by Exciter. You know, it was like we were, you know, of course we're huge fans of bands like that back in the early 80s, mid 80s, and then when you listen to those original you know, songs, I mean, they're obviously not very technical, you know. I mean, they're great songs, of course, and you know, but we were able to kind of pull them off, I guess, still probably very, very badly, but at least we were able to, you know, feel that we can play a couple of songs like that. So I remember those two in particular being the first things that I ever, you know, learned on the drums in a song capacity. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Okay. When, you know, so earlier on too, with, you know, when grabbing your first kit and then, you know, starting the bands and different things like that, what were local music shops as far as where you would have to get your gear or cymbals or skins, anything like that? What was local to you?
Yeah, well, there was one in particular, and it just, you know, funny when we're talking about that. I think the guy just closed it down like last year. It was called the Buffalo Drum Outlet, you know. I mean, and he was known, of course, through Buffalo, and he you know, he was the drum store, you know. I mean, obviously, you're right. You're not having much in the way of, you know, what we got today with the Sam Ash Guitar Center and all that kind of thing, where, you know, so it was cool to have just a local drum shop like that to be able to go. And that's where I actually purchased my next drum set, which would have been my real drum set. You know, my first Tama kit.
Okay.
After I, you know, had to, of course, move up from the Kent. But yeah, the Buffalo Drum Outlet, and he was in business for years. And I, you know, and I know he just closed shop like last year or something, which is, you know, kind of a sad thing because yeah, he was a staple in the Buffalo scene for, you know, just drummers in general. For no matter what you did, you know, everyone knew Paul at the Buffalo Drum Outlet. So that was the place to go get your sticks and to go get your cymbals, right? And that's where I said I bought my first, you know, sort of real drum set, my first Tama, and you know, that was the place to go.
Man, oh, and what a bummer. I mean, you know, losing some places like that, especially drums. You know, you don't have a whole lot of shops that that offer, you know, specifically that type of stuff. So, man, what a bummer to lose that.
Yep.
Did he end up doing it? I mean, do you know, did he end up doing anything after that, or does he have like another mixed like music shop, or was that just kind of end of an era type of thing?
Yeah, I think it was end of an era thing. You know, I know he was in business for you know, decades, of course. I don't think he's got anything else going, like an online thing or whatever. I believe that's it. He just, you know, end of an era. You know, retired from that business, I guess. And yeah, it's just you know, I think a lot of it probably had to do with the COVID, but you know, with probably, you know, just couldn't keep up there for a little bit and had no choice. I don't really fully know the whole story, but but unfortunately, yeah, that it just had to go you know, the way of him closing, because that was a Buffalo original.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so another aspect, as far as, you know, with Cannibal is, you know, you've written 2 full songs on guitar for Cannibal Corpse, as well as, you know, some riffs in the earlier dates of the band. Tell us about where you picked up playing guitar. I mean, was that kind of the same approach with drums? Like, you know, you just had in mind that you wanted to create a band and you just picked up the guitar and started strumming, or how did that come about?
Well, yeah, actually, the guitar was my first instrument before the drums. I mean, like I said, I was a late comer.
Really?
Yeah, I was a late comer to the drums, of course, like you said, around 16. But prior to that, I think I was maybe 13 or 14. I can't remember, somewhere around there, where I loved guitar. I mean, I love all instruments. I love all just rock instruments, bass, in particular, of course, guitar, bass, and drums. You know, the main, you know, the main backbone of any hard rock, you know, rock, metal, you know, kind of music that you're listening to or playing, right? So I've always loved those 3 instruments, and I was gravitated more towards the guitar in the early days. And I did take lessons. I mean, it's funny, I've never taken one drum lesson in my life, but I actually did start taking guitar lessons, like I said, around that age, 13, somewhere around there. And I took lessons for about 6 months. And, you know, it was one of those where you go to the local music store and you're just, you know, being taught from, you know, whatever guy, and my parents took me, and, you know, it was cool. But you know what? I was playing on an acoustic guitar. I did not do that. I'm at that age where, you know, even if I didn't know what I was doing, I wanted to, make noise on an electric guitar. My parents weren't going to buy me an electric guitar. They were like, hey, maybe if you go further with this and you really show an interest, we'll see down the line. But I ended up having a rental acoustic that you would rent from the place, and you take it home, you do your practicing, you go back, and but the fact that I actually went 6 months. And, I learned how to read music and all that kind of stuff where I couldn't do that to save my life right now, because it was so long ago. And it's like, a foreign language that, you just forgot about. Like I look at some of these, I still got my books, and I go, I was able to look and read that and know what I'm doing. That's pretty crazy. So unfortunately, yes, after those 6 months, and I just was tired of strumming the acoustic, and I gave up on it. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to rock out here. I'm at that age. So that kind of fell to the wayside. And then the drums came into play. But then I do remember a couple of years later, I acquired an electric guitar, and now I'm, a little older of a teen, right? 15, 16, when I'm starting to play the drums, but I'm still fiddling with the guitar because I still had that, kind of a little bit of a passion with it. So I played guitar for quite a bit there in, my teenage years. And I wrote a lot for the first band that I was in, Tyrant Sin. I wrote a lot of riffs and a few songs on guitar. And then, when I started really playing the drums and taking a little bit more of the, in control here of what I wanted to do, then I was playing, of course, less and less guitar. So in the early days of Cannibal, the two in particular that I know, I wrote the beginning riff of Gutted, the very beginning riff in Gutted, if you listen to that. And
nice.
I had a very good hand in, and I know Jack Owen helped me a little bit and refined it, but I wrote the beginning riff of Icon Blood as well. And, and obviously Gutted's on Butchered at Birth, and Icon Blood is on Tomb of the Mutilated. So we're talking, our second, third album here in the early 90s. But that's where things started going, I'm just concentrating on the drums, and I'm not playing that much guitar anymore. Everybody is writing material, and, so I didn't really do much in the way of guitar for years until what was that? I think it was 2006 when we were doing Kill, when I wrote my first song on guitar fully, being Submerged in Boiling Flesh there, where I kind of got a little bit of an itch where I haven't been playing a lot. And I'm like, what? I just was curious. Or can I still do this? Can I do a whole song? Can I, and I had the inclination, I had the desire, and luckily, the other guys were cool with the song to be able to, to record it, put it on the record and all that. So it was definitely pretty cool for that to happen, But yeah, my guitar days are they're kind of few and far between these days as well. I haven't done much at all. I look and maybe I should start up again, but then I go, I don't know why, I just don't, but it was cool to be a part of the band in that way, because not a lot of drummers can say they've written a couple songs on guitar for their band. So that, I feel very, very proud and very excited and happy that I was able to accomplish that.
Yeah, totally. And with some of the tracks that you did write, like the riffs too, was that just something where you kind of came in, you're like, hey guys, I have this, check this out, and then it became a whole band thing? Or was there generally one or two, couple of guys that you would kind of show it to and they would take it from there?
Well, the two songs I wrote, Submerged in Boiling Flesh and Carrion Sculpted Entity, which ended up being on Evisceration Play.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote the songs entirely on the guitar. I had the riffs, I had the arrangement, I had everything. So I'm not good enough, and it wasn't back then, to go, hey, I'm going to play the song on the record or even demo it out. I couldn't do that. I could play it in pieces, and that's what I ended up doing. So both of those songs I ended up showing I showed to Rob Barrett, our guitar player. I went piece by piece. Okay, Rob, here's the first riff, all right, here's the second riff, here's the third, and that's how he knew the song. And then of course he's able to play it in its entirety. And then I already had the drums in my head, what was going to happen, so both of those songs are me in its entirety, with the arrangement, with the riffs, the drumming, and the lyrics. I had a hand in all that. Obviously I didn't play the solos, let those guys, whoever was soloing on it, here's what I want the solo to be, and do whatever you want, of course,
Right.
So it was interesting because, that's how those two songs came together. I was able to, to create a whole song by myself that way, and just exactly needing it to relay, the riffs to Rob, and then there you have it. So yeah,
awesome.
pretty cool.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it was one thing where I've seen in different things, your documentary, different, or documentaries, I should say, with the bands, and just different things. But I wanted to ask about that as far as like your guitar playing, because I never really hear a whole lot with that. And so I thought, that was kind of a cool angle. And especially, like being a drummer and being able to, and having the opportunity of writing a whole song on guitar too, I thought that was pretty sick. So I want to touch on that.
Yeah,
so
awesome. I'm glad we did.
Well, with your drumming, as far as pre-pandemic, we'll say, you guys are getting ready for concerts. What is your pre-show ritual? Maybe not even necessarily the same thing every time, but what are some things maybe that help you center yourself? Do you do some practicing beforehand? What helps you get ready before playing?
Yeah, it seems like it's changed over the years. What I did I never was one to really practice much, and I probably should have. I never was one to sit on the pad or really practice. To me, it was more important just to feel ready, to feel loose, I guess, to feel that my muscles and my arms and everything was ready to go. So what I would normally do is just a little bit of stretching, here and there. But I noticed in the last few years, I really tried to step it up and go, I probably need to do a little bit more than that. So my ritual, maybe the last, say, 3, 4, 5 years now, has been doing, let me do a bunch of push-ups, like maybe about an hour before we go on, start doing some push-ups, get in, a good 40 minutes of that, or at least a half hour. And then have the sticks in my hands, of course, at that point, and just maybe do a little bit of a stretching on the forearms, but really just kind of get the blood flowing a little bit more, than before we go on, So that was really it. I didn't do anything major. I mean, I always looked at it as long as I slept good, if I got good sleep, and I feel good going into the show, and I'm hydrated, and I ate well, then I felt that was 80% of the battle right there. And then exactly just kind of, getting the blood flowing before, you hit the stage. That was always more my thing. And I don't know if that's the right thing or that's just my thing, because exactly, I know a lot of guys, I wish I had more of an inclination to sit and, it'd be nice in a perfect world where, you got everything at your disposal. I would love to sit on the drum kit and actually play on the kit for a while. But, we're not Metallica, and to be able to do those kind of things where you can have your practice, your whole practice set up in the room behind the stage. To do that. If I perfect world, like I said, I would probably the drum kit itself and for a little bit to warm up, feel the actual kit more so than getting a feel, playing on pads. And it's just different surfaces. I want to feel like I'm actually what I'm going to be going into, which would be hitting the acoustic drums. So that'd be nice, maybe one day. But if not, so be it. We've made it this far. Made it this long without that. But just like I said, just getting the blood flowing. That was the most important thing.
Okay. Yeah. As far as with that too, I think, I wanted to hit on that, especially as far as with death metal, that's one thing where it's like, if it's punk rock, you can kind of fudge your way through a little bit, and there's different ways, even some hardcore, but with death metal, you're doing 45 minutes, an hour of just straight, blasts or just in your face, high BPM, that's where it always interests me. Like, man, oh man, I can tell over the years, that it might get a little bit easier in a sense because of your, the muscle memory. But dear Lord, it's just one of those things where every time you're like, golly, it's got to be tough.
It's tough, and it's not getting any easier, man. I'm not getting any younger, so it's not the old days where you can just run on adrenaline as well, and just being a young whippersnapper. Not these days. You got to work even harder, right? So that's it's getting tougher as I go here, but do the best I can. That's all I can do.
Totally. All right. So, next I wanted to touch on the newest album. So you got Violence Unimagined. I wanted to get into the drum breakdown. I also want to mention too, the drum sound. I don't know if there was anything different that you guys did in the studio, maybe a little bit of a different approach, but the sound on this record, especially with the drums, was like one of those things that kicked me in the face at first. What were some specs as far as what you used on the album here? I know you're using D drum, correct?
Well, I'm endorsed by D-Drum, and that's my kits that I use. But it's that old studio kind of secret, and I'm sure a lot of drummers do this, bands do this. I mean, and and I know I'm good friends with Mike Petrak. That's the main D-Drum guy right now, and he already knows these things. I didn't use the D-Drums on the recording. I mean, they probably would sound amazing. I got a really nice drum kit that they made me a couple of years ago, custom kit that's a maple kit that I, been touring with. But when it comes down to it, I mean, certain producers, certain people, they want to, they want to use the best of the best, and, and Eric Rutan, obviously our that produced the record and the band now and all that, man, he's got an amazing Pearl reference drum kit, so that's what we used on the last couple of records actually is to record, is the Pearl reference. And man, they're just amazing, top of the line drums, of course, so I know it is kind of a weird thing to use something maybe a little bit different than what you're endorsing, but man, you're laying this down forever kind of a thing, and you want you want to make it the best as possible. And so that's what we did. We used those, and we just tuned them up, of course, great. And we used all the natural sounds on the toms and everything, and the snare drum, and we really focused on getting the most natural drum sound that we could, a full thick sound. I mean, I love the sound of just natural drums, I think that's so important. So, and he knows that as well. So that's what we really focused on. But of course I'm using Zildjian Symbols. I've been using those for over 10 years now. I'm very fortunate to have a deal with them, and, been using the A Customs, for crashes and all that. And, they sound amazing, just a great brand, of course, and great cymbals to use. So I've been using those, and that's really when it comes down to, in that department, because everything else is a little bit, the accessories like pedals and sticks and all that stuff. I mean, I've been using Vic Firths now for the last few years. I've changed up my, stick deal. I mean, I was using Regal Tip there for the longest time. And then I ended up using Vic Firths for the last few years. And then I'm always constantly changing that too, like trying different weights, different models and things. And for Violence Unimagined, I actually have been using for the last couple of years now is the Vic Firth Classic Rock model, which is a heavier, longer stick, and I'm actually, it's a little bit bigger than the, like a 2B, and I was like, man, I don't know how I went that. I just was, looking to try to get something heavy, really working on, using the stick to your utmost, its most potential, and you always know that a heavier stick is just going to, kind of work itself. And it's a little more work on my end, but at the same time, I think it's helped me out big time, with my arms and my stamina and endurance and all that. But I know it's crazy. I'm using these classic rock Vic Firths, which are like, logs, but wood tip too. I've never used wood tip sticks until this. I was like, let me try wood tip. I don't know why. I just had a feeling. I've been using the nylons forever, and I went to the wood tips, and I'm liking it. So that's my stick right now. That could change. Who knows?
Okay.
But that's what I use on the record too.
So as far as with this album, did you use a different China?
No, we used the same China that I've used. I think
the same one that you normally do.
It's the Oriental. It's not a it's what is it? It's the Zildjian. It's a red label. I don't think it's an A custom. What the heck is that? I used the same China on the last couple of records. It would have definitely been the one I used on Red Before Black, and the same one on Violence Unimagined. It's a Zildjian. And
I know there's an Oriental that is the red label.
I don't know. That would be the one.
The same
that
one.
would be the one. That's probably the one. Yeah, that's probably the one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a great sounding China.
Okay.
I love the sound of that China. 20-inch. I like a bigger China too. I don't like a smaller, crashier one. I don't know why. I've always used like a 20-inch. So that's what I'm using. Have been using for years.
Okay. Oh, okay. I don't know what it was, and I should have wrote this down in my notes. There's one song in particular, but it's just such like a dark, booming. I'm like, holy shit, what is that? But I guess maybe it just kind of shines through in a different light with what else was going on. But I was just
Yeah,
like, man,
maybe.
that thing is sick sounding. Holy
Awesome.
shit.
Well, I'm glad you heard that. I can't think offhand what song that would be, but you're always trying to make the cymbals, work on the drum mix constantly. So I think we got a great cymbal mix, a great drum mix on this record, and it's good to be able to shine through it when need to be. So I'm glad you picked that out, whatever song that may be. So
it's the track that Eric did the playthrough before the album came out.
All right, Condemnation Contagion.
Yeah.
Contagion.
Jesus. All right. I'm gonna have to take that bumping for not knowing that. I couldn't think of what the track was. I could think of the lyrics and how the song goes, but it was just like that middle section during like the verse there where you're kind of riding on the china.
Right,
I'm just like, damn, that thing is heavy.
Right. That's a pounding song, So it's one that would stand out on for sure.
Right. What is preferred footwear for you? When you're playing, what is something, it's something that somebody kind of pointed out a couple of months ago when I was doing one of these things I never thought of, but I constantly have, certain shoes that I'm wearing when I go to play. What's preferred for you?
Well, early on, it was always just, like whatever sneakers I had, I guess. I mean, it was just kind of like, which I didn't care back then, I guess. I wasn't concerned about footwear for the most part. And I just wore, whatever sneakers I had, And then, I don't even know how long ago this has been, maybe 10 years ago. A guy started the company, the DB Drum Shoes, which I don't even know if they're in existence anymore. Guy Jerry Lynch, I think his name was. It's funny. I should know this, and I can't recall offhand. It's been a while, but I was using those for quite a few years there. It's a very light, shoe made for drumming, And I remember he came to a show. He wanted me to use this, and I tried them. I was in the market. I was, ironically enough, right. I just had to throw away my pair of sneakers that I was using for drums. Going, all right, these are just ridiculous. I need to get rid of them. And then I just was starting to think, having more thought process on my footwear, going, maybe I should go to something lighter on my foot. A lot of guys are wearing like wrestling shoes or something that's super light. And then the DB drum shoe came out. And I was like, oh, awesome, man. This is like perfect. This is what I want to wear. And I wore them for years. But get this now. All right, I wore them for years. And it's probably been, whenever we did the Obituary tour, that was maybe 5 years ago now, I think it's been, something like that. Just before I was, I'm constantly in the last, say, 10 years, been working on a lot of things that I never did before. I'm a type of guy that just gets stuck in my ways, and I stick with what I'm doing, whether that's good or bad. I just get used to it. And instead of like going, maybe there's a better way, maybe I should try something different, whether it sticks or, whatever. I never did. And then about 10 years ago, maybe a little longer, I was really thinking maybe I should sample different stuff and see what works best. So this is one of these examples when I'm using the drum shoes and everything's fine with them. I have no problem using these shoes. But I was like, what? Let me try playing barefoot. Let me try playing barefoot because I felt that a song, for instance, I thought for a song like Evisceration Plague or Scourge of Iron that's slower, that it's a lot harder for me to play slow, I think, overall than it is fast, where you're having to, these slower strokes on the kicks where I'm not used to that. I've been playing fast my whole life, and that's what I wanted to do. And that's, early Cannibal, what was slow? Nothing for years, right? So 2 days before we went on tour with Obituary, I remember this. I took the shoes off. And I played barefoot, and I go, oh my! It was like a revelation. I go, Mick, this is amazing. I love this. I've been barefoot ever since. So I have. Been
shit! Okay.
I've been barefoot ever since, and I have no inkling at this point. Right now, even thought process of trying a shoe or going back to the DB drum shoes or trying something different. I'm like, I love playing barefoot. That's what I've been doing, for the last, say, 5-6 years now. So yeah, okay. Weird how I've kind of went from wearing a heavy sneaker to the lighter shoe, then gone to barefoot. So,
Nothing.
I know. So that's where I'm at these days, which is kind of
yeah. Weird. I mean, it's one of those things, over the course of, especially with you guys being a band 30 years, playing as long as you have, I think it's interesting kind of looking back at some of those times and seeing how things change, and even with age, where you're kind of at a point where it's like, you know what? screw those. If I can do what I can do and have, you know, just my feet and some socks, I'm good. I think I'm all right.
Exactly. Hey, man, you know, saves on having to, you know, wear and tear on the shoes, you know, I guess, and all that. I've really limited my what I wear playing now. I wear a shirt and shorts, and that's it. That's all I got, you know. So I mean, it makes my stage apparel that much more simple, and you know. But yeah, I mean, I love the feet. The only problem with the feet is, you know, playing on the pedals. I play on the Charchik Capitos, you know, those Polish pedals. I've been playing those for about 10 years now. And, you know, it's a very smooth pedal, a very smooth, you know, plate. And the only problem I may incur or have here and there is if it's a super hot show where that humidity and you're just sweating, well, then the bottom of your feet are going to sweat. And then, man, I've been a couple of times I've been just swimming on the pedals. So I've been having to actually bring with me those blower fans and blow them on my feet. So when I play and it's that hot, then I can at least have those fans blowing and helping me out. So that's the only maybe slight downfall for that, I guess. But it's, you know, very infrequently that you know, that I have to worry about that. So you know, but I'll take it, man, because like I said, I just love playing barefoot, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Now, as far as so going, you know, back to this newest album here and digging into a little bit with the tracking, you know, when you were first going in and you know, starting your first sessions, do you remember what like the first couple of songs were, and then what you ended off on in the studio?
Yeah, usually, you know, the way I go and the way we go, it's kind of like I always end up tracking what we ended up maybe writing first, you know, what I've been playing the longest, you know, because there's always going to be those songs, of course, going, all right, well, we started writing this one first and I learned it first and I've been playing this one the longest, you know, because, right, the last songs or, you know, that you learn or prepare for are maybe even a couple months later, you know, so you know, you go in as well prepared as you can, but right, obviously some songs you might have a couple months under your belt more than, you know, some of the others. So one of the first songs that we wrote was Bound and Burned, Rob's song, and that one I probably was playing like the most there for a while. That one and Surround, Kill, Devour, Alex's song. Those two were the first songs that I learned and we started playing, you know, for the session. So when I went into record, it's kind of like you just want to go in and start somewhere like that, you know, and that's the way I feel. Like start something that, you know, you're going to be able to just probably tackle pretty easy and get it out of the way, and, you know, start off on a positive note that way, you know, not maybe tackling one of the harder songs that, you know, maybe just take a little more work. But you know, so I remember I'm pretty sure we did Bound and Burned first. And then we may have done Murderous Rampage second. I think, you know, might have done those two because that was another one that was early on in the writing session. And then maybe Surround, Kill, Devour. And then you just kind of take it from there, you know, which ones, you know, all right, let's try this, you know, maybe save a couple of the harder ones for the end. What we ended up doing was I think it was Condemnation Contagion. That was kind of the last song that I actually learned. But, you know, getting back to where we were, like in Condemnation Contagion, the last song that we ended up, you know, tracking just because we knew there'd be a little more time, you know, just spend on, you know, that's a crazy song, man. Love those fills going on. And,
Totally.
you know, I mean, Eric's, you know, writes some great songs, just different. So, you know, it took a little more time to kind of get that down. And actually, the last three songs that we did were the last three that I ended up learning were Slowly Sawn, Cerements of the Flayed, and Condemnation Contagion. And man, those three of those were very difficult on drums. I mean, very difficult mentally, more mentally than anything. A song like Slowly Sawn, obviously, or Condemnation, they're not fast. They're not hard in that capacity. It's all mental.
Yeah.
And man, that was just, it took me a month just to be able to wrap my head around Slowly Sawn and Cerements of the Flayed, because those are two that Alex wrote, that he wrote the drums for. And I was just like, my gosh, this took me a while just to be able to wrap my head around it, and then to be able to do it physically was another thing. So you know, those were crazy ones to do. You know, they turned out amazing, of course, but but man, I was pulling my hair out for a little bit.
Yeah, especially I mean I can agree, you know, from a fan and listening, it was one of those things where it wasn't like 12-minute blast beat or something, you know, overly fast, but that was something, you know, where it really caught my attention as far as hearing it. And you know, I almost there was a couple times I had to rewind because I'm like, what the hell is he doing? I'm not like even following along with what's going on here.
Oh no,
So
I think
definitely a cool
like,
moment.
yeah, I think especially Cerements of the Flayed and Slowly Sawn are those songs. I mean, there's no way you listen to it once and go, oh, I got it. As you know, and there's songs that you can do that with, you know, and there's a lot of Cannibal songs that are that way, which is cool. But it's cool to have songs that, you know, you really need to absorb to fully understand what's going on here. And then, you know, maybe upon a few listens, you go, oh, okay, I got it. And then maybe even after that, you still don't even know. And then you're always going to pick something else out later on. And, you know, you listen to it 400 times, then you go, okay, I think I got it.
Yeah.
and that's what it was me for learning those songs in particular. So my gosh, but yeah, really cool. They turned out amazing. What cool songs, you know, definitely add some cool flavor to the record.
Totally. I cannot agree more with writing lyrics. So digging into this a little bit for Murderous Rampage and then also Cerements of the Flayed. What can you tell us as far as, you know, like even a little bit of a story or just kind of an inspiration for the songs and going into writing those?
Well, interesting enough, right? I mean, those are the only two that I wrote lyrics for on this record. And if you know anything about the band and, you know, follow who writes or whatever, I've written a lot of lyrics over the last few years.
Right.
And you know, we, you know, of course, having Eric in the band, he wanted to write lyrics to his songs, you know, which was fine. Gives us another view here, you know. Of what's happening lyrically and all that, and gave me a little bit of a break, which I really had no problem, you know, doing. But Rob came to me and go, yeah, man, I want you to write one of my songs just so you have some lyrics on this record. I think people are going to miss your lyrics, you know, because they're used to having you write a bunch. So yeah, that's fine. You know, I got no problem if I didn't write any, but you know, cool that he thought that way. And he actually had the title already for that song. And you know, so he had Murderous Rampage. So you know, that's how I kind of like to start anyways. I like to, at least if I have a song title, and then of course if I have the music, and then I take it from there. But obviously Murderous Rampage could be about a, you know, it could be about a, where, you know, it's blunt, it obviously to the point, but you know, what am I going to write about in particular? So until I started putting some words down, then I just basically writing about a murderer that goes around killing in great crazy ways, and actually just you know, saving some of the, you know, the remains and things like that for like kind of decorations throughout his house or whatever, you know, trophies or whatever. You know, so it's fairly simple, you know, and nothing complex here, nothing crazy, you know, nothing that we probably haven't written about in some fashion or another before, you know. You know, so that was it. It was just all coming from within my own mind, of course, you know, and taking it from there. And then Cerements of the Flayed kind of came together late because Alex, you know, wrote that song. And then if you notice, I have not written a song for Alex.
It's been a long time,
years.
right?
Yes. Blow
Yeah.
And the last one that I wrote lyrics for 20 years ago for Alex. So Alex at the last minute, you know, we were starting to, I mean, our lyrics always come together at the end, you know, because we're all working on the music and recording. And then once we're done with that, that's, you know, like when I'll start writing lyrics, when I'm done tracking drums and all that kind of thing. And I think the guys are similar. And Alex is like, man, I'm not going to be able to get Cerements, you know, I don't feel like I had enough time to get Cerements done here, you know. And he put it out there to me saying, hey, you want to write the lyrics to that? And he had the title as well. He had Cerements of the Flayed. I mean, he even said, you know, hey, if you want to change the title, but this is what I kind of was going to write it about. I was going to call it that, and here's my concept. And I'm like, dude, no problem, man. You know, I just appreciate that, you know, are going to let me write the lyrics. And of course, I'll stick true to what you wanted the song to be, you know. So I did that one, and I already had the basis of what was happening. He was, you know, just what that one's about, somebody being buried alive, you know, wearing somebody else's, you know, another human skin. And, you know, and then of course I, you know, had my little take on what's going on throughout the story, I guess. But obviously it was already set, you know, the template was already set for what, you know, what the song's going to be about in the title. So that was, you know, almost half the battle there. So, yeah, so those two, you know, were the ones I wrote. And, you know, it was just, you know, cool to have other input. Like I said, if, you know, if you're starting from scratch, a lot of times it's maybe a little more difficult. So if somebody's already got a concept or a title, then, you know, then it's a lot easier to roll with it. So, you know, so I think they turned out pretty cool. I'm pretty happy the way both of those turned out lyrically.
Totally. And I have to say, Cerements definitely had to be one of those moments, like in the history of heavy music to me, you know, where it was already heavy. And then looking into the lyrics in that opening line, I'm like, holy shit, what is happening? That was like,
had to make it pretty brutal, you know?
Tears of hell. And like, that was like pushing way up there. Like, oh my Lord, I could not imagine, like, what an awful situation.
Definitely awful. Nothing happy. Nothing happy happening in these songs. That's for sure, and especially in songs. So yeah, no, I had to, you know, just I don't know where it comes from myself half the time. You know, just delve into the imagination and bring it out, and you know, and that's that. But yeah, I think it turned out pretty cool.
Yeah. And it was one thing I was listening to, because I was, you know, doing different research. And I mean, I'm a fan of the band for a long time, so it wasn't like a ton, but listening to, you know, some recent interviews or things. And you had mentioned that you don't really watch a whole lot of horror movies. And that was where I was like, whoa, like, man, there's some pretty wild stuff going on. Because some of these things I'm like, well, maybe it's inspired by some movies or, you know, some terrible things. But I'm just like, man, that's some deep lyrics going on there, some deep concepts.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's funny when we talk about lyrics or talk about that with, you know, any interviews I do. It's like, you know, people always ask, right, you know, the inspirational. I mean, I think we've just been inspired for years. We've been doing it for so long. Of course, right. We've watched so many movies and read books and, you know, and true to life things, and we've absorbed it, and we, you know, we have that experience, I guess, just out of being, you know, as old as we are now, right? So it just seems like to me now it's just a matter of, right, when it comes down to it, you know, just delving into the imagination and pulling those stories out from within, you know, because the inspiration has been already absorbed for years and years and years now. So yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah, fine-tuning a craft for sure.
Yeah, that's it.
So lastly, you know, before I do have one more question and then our finale here, but I wanted to ask, through all the years of, you know, being on the road, traveling, what is something that you have that maybe you picked up, bought, were gifted, that, you know, is just too cherishable to get rid of?
You know, I thought of that because I was like thinking, you know, I mean, I've gotten things over the years. I mean, you know, you always maybe get some cool trinkets or knickknacks or things like that from different places, which are cool. A lot of them I actually ended up getting from my daughter when she was younger. Just, you know, if I went to a cool place to get her some maybe handcrafted kind of like thing or whatever. I mean, that I felt would have been special for her maybe later on. But for me, I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm not. You know, like I said, I was trying to think of this, and the only thing I could really come up with is, man, just, you know, just the Cannibal stuff that we've accumulated over the years. I mean, you know, I mean, I got bins and bins of laminates, of flyers, of just merchandise, and, you know, and shirts and things like that. You know, that you know is my life. That's what we've been doing, you know, and this is a history kind of a thing. So I always felt that I wanted to try to grab as much things as possible throughout our career here, just to have as whatever I'm going to do with that. Am I going to, you know, obviously, you know, what do I give it to my daughter, or do I end up, you know, selling him a lot of this stuff just because, you know, somebody else can enjoy it and have it move on in somebody, you know, some collector's kind of situation. I don't know, but it's just cool to have a bunch of cool stuff from, you know, from the whole career of the band, you know, like, you know, magazines, and like I said, just anything, you know, bootleg shirts, and, you know, just having some of the original shirts and things like that. It's, you know, it's just pretty cool. Not you know, it means a lot because it's what I do, and it's my life, I guess, you know, but then again, like I said, they're just possessions, they're just things, they're just material, and that doesn't seem to be as important to me anymore as it maybe once was when you were younger, you know. So I got no problem. I already parted ways with a couple of old T-shirts to collectors, you know, just because I know, you know what, give them to somebody that's going to really cherish them and want them and feel so happy to have these. And it's like, I look at it and go, it's cool to have, but at the same time, I lived it. I've been there, you know. I mean, I don't need a shirt to remind me of anything, or or whatever. But yeah, it's cool to have that kind of stuff. So we'll see what ends up inevitably happening to all this cool stuff in the future. And but either way, it was fun to collect, and I'm glad I got it.
Nice. And I mean, what a cool, memento as far as having those things to look back at, with some people having life, and not that there's anything wrong with like working in a shop or anything, but,
right.
You got to travel and you got to create music and do different things. And, it's a cool thing to be able to look back at that stuff and, have some times that you're like, oh, I completely forgot that we did this magazine, or that we got to go to this country and travel and play somewhere that other people didn't. And, I mean, that's definitely, that's a great answer, because there's I don't, tour or anything like that, but I mean, myself even playing, I always feel fortunate to have those opportunities and have people sitting there singing or looking at you and knowing who the fuck you are. It's very, very, very cherishable. So I love that. That's a great answer.
Yeah, you're totally right on that. We're just very fortunate and happy to have had the career we've had, and for people to look up to us and to be a band that's looked up to, as being one of the original death metal bands or whatever, and still be around. It's an amazing feeling just in itself to have people look up to you in that way. So that's obviously the most important thing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I love that. All right. So that was my final question there that I had for this. I do have one more finale, but if you have anything that you want to, give some shout outs, or if you have anything new that's coming up with Cannibal that you want to share, this is your opportunity, man.
Man, nothing really. I just appreciate the interview. It was a lot of fun, Eric, and cool that we touched upon some cool subjects there and everything. And I just had a great time, and really just thanks to all the the fans that supported us and bought the new record and have been with us for years, or just started listening to us yesterday. I mean, that's it's very important to have fans of this kind of music, and for it to keep going well beyond our years, or when our day is done and all that. I mean, somebody's going to have to carry the torch, and all the bands that have been around are going to be gone at some point. So it's just cool that death metal has been able to to thrive and to get bigger and all that, with no end in sight. And just really thanks to all the fans of Cannibal Corpse and of death metal for their ongoing support.
Totally. Nice. Very cool. So for this finale here, I wanted to ask, so, like I say, I can't really ask for more, because we just got a new record. We have some music videos, this is where this finale is going to go. So we've had Necrogenic, Resurrection, and then Inhumane Harvest. We've had 2 music videos here in the last few months that, really just kind of push the music to a next level, and are just grueling both. So
Nice.
But with that, I wanted to ask, tell us about your earliest memory of a music video, and maybe one that still resonates with you today that you still love.
Oh man, that's a good question there. I mean, I'm a product of MTV. I remember watching MTV when it first came out. It's like back I think it was 82. When I'm, obviously, young teenager, and music is obviously getting, bigger in my life. And then something like MTV comes out, and you're just like, wow, this is incredible, seeing all these music videos. And then back then, of course, I mean, there was a lot of just the poppy stuff that's happening and everything, but they played a lot of heavy stuff back then, being, the hard rock and the metal that was of the day. And I always remember, you'd watch MTV all day, just waiting for that Judas Priest video, for the Motley Crue video, or something like that, So, I mean, I'm trying to think back. I mean, I always remember a video, like, I don't know why it comes to mind. Motley Crue, Looks That Kill. That was just always Motley Crue looking like that. And what a great song. We're big fans of the first 2 Motley Crue albums. I am in particular. And, I always remember that, or waiting, or the video for You Got Another Thing Coming from Judas Priest. That was right at that time too. That was such an amazing. You couldn't wait to watch that video. Seen that probably hundreds and hundreds of times, but it never got old. And So all those early videos, just because how impressionable, right, and how new it was, and just that timing of it all being, like I said, a young teen, and it was just so many videos. I was probably a bunch that I can rattle off or think about if I really think about it. Going, oh yeah, wow, that one, haven't seen that one in forever, and but those two in particular, for some reason, I just they come to mind, and those were always amazing to see.
Those are definitely good ones. I love that answer. That's good. and it's one thing too, you know, where it wasn't automatically accessible. You know, you didn't get sick of it because you couldn't watch it 50 times in a row and be like, all right, I'm on to a new one. You know, it's like you had to, like you said, you had to sit through hours of, you know, maybe even crappy videos, you know, or something you didn't want to listen. Finally, you hear like the opening notes of it, and you have to run back in the room so you can catch it.
well, you know what we did? And I'm sure everybody did this because I'm not the only one. We had the VHS, of course, set up because you couldn't just readily watch it. So what did you have to do? You had to wait for that video to hit record real quick. You might miss the first couple seconds because, you know, you weren't sure, but you at least had it on your VHS. To go, wow, we can watch this video later. We can watch it all day if we want. You know, we don't have to wait, you know, through hours and hours of MTV, which we still did, of course, you know. But yeah, I remember that was back in those days, you know, hit record on the VHS, and then you were able to, you know, to have it forever. So
and then you finally get the album, and you can, you know, you get the album, and you're like, oh, this is what the first 12 seconds of the song sounded like. Okay.
Exactly. So fun times.
This has been a little bit of a struggle technologically, but thank you so much. This means a ton to me personally. I truly appreciate your time, and thank you for all that you do. And you know, I once you guys get it back on the road, I can't wait to come and see you guys play live.
Well, I appreciate it, Eric. Thank you. No, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, we made it through. Hopefully we don't get booted off here at the final second, but at least we were able to get through it. And, you know, hope everybody that was watching and all that enjoyed it. And again, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll get to see you out there soon sometime.
Totally. All right, man. Thank you so much. Lo-Fi Horror Guy. I'm going to do Paul Mczurowitz of Cannibal Corpse. You guys take care. Stay safe, man.
All right. Bye. You too, man.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-Fi Horror Guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.